Could you mention some of your top highlights from those 28 days?
I'm taking away the knowledge and the wisdom, and because I've seen myself evolve and grow in the 28 days. So I'm taking that away. I'm taking away a lot of walking with people like me on the journey. I'm taking away a lot of the confidence that I didn't think I had, but I now have. The acceptance of the things that I can't change. So those are the very things that I'm taking away with me.
It's beautiful. And thank you so much for having shown up in the most authentic, beautiful, vulnerable way, and just journeying alongside others as a great support, both to them, but also to yourself, because it is about that we learn to show up for ourselves.
I think the first thing is showing up, and I think I give myself a pat on the back for showing up, because that's the first step to anything then, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you have fully enrolled yourself on this journey to be a student on the journey to say, I now have a toolkit for awakened leadership, and I know I got to practice it every day, but I'm ready for it. Are you ready for it?
Yes, I am.
Yourself. So what was different about this journey? What stood out for you?
I did ask myself that question. I've done more of a lot of these things, and I used to go to America. I used to travel a lot to America to do this. So the likes of Deepak Chopra, I've done Wayne Dyer, I've done all those things. And they're lovely, but it can be, I think each one is different, brings a different thing for us.
Yeah.
To do it in the pandemic was the depth of this one. So for me, I went to the core and touched a lot of things that I have touched before, but not fully, if you know what I mean, because I think the wounds are so deep with everything that has happened in my life that I was healing a lot of those things. They've been there. I know about it. I know my strengths. But it was good to touch those things this time. So I think it brought me out of it into a good space again. So I was happy about that.
That's
really
wonderful, Yasminder. And I think it's really relevant to think into that. We will need different courses, different journeys. I mean, of course, it all taps into your journey, but offerings on the journey that speaks to us at specific times and seasons in our lives. And where this bootcamp, which is, of course, depth coaching, spoke deeply to be able to attend maybe those deeper layers that hadn't surfaced for you back then, but are surfacing now because they were triggered through what has happened the last year.
Yes. And I think I'm in a different space. I've had a lot of growth in the sense I've had more challenges. So this was, depth work that we were doing, whereas maybe the others were motivational. They touched me, don't get me wrong. I've learned and taken away so much away from those as well. But like I said, I was probably at a different time, different space. I was more happy then than, I'm not saying I'm sad today, but I think the challenges have been huge. So to touch those wounded places was something that I really worked on this time.
So thank you for that. What stood out for you? Could you mention one or two highlights when it comes to that deep journeying with yourself? Some breakthroughs, maybe?
Yes, for me, fear is the biggest thing. And I think a lot of people go into, but it's not just fear of the darkness, it's fear a lot of things. But I think I've recognized that I'm more fearful now. I may be strong in so many other ways, but I'm still the fear keeps me at a certain place. The acceptance is another thing. I'm very accepting of how people are. I'm very good at that, but I'm not very good with accepting situations, the change in my life. And I recognize that now that, I'm not so good with myself. And people can tell you, you're strong, you're done this and you've come out of it, and you kind of listen and say, yes, and I have. You believe it as well, and you believe yourself sometimes. But when it's, going deep down, we're like the ocean, the ocean has got
Yeah.
so much, and it is when you dive deeper into yourselves. And I think I felt that the wheel was something that scared me. I
Yes.
kept putting it off, but it actually brought me to a lot of the truth,
Yeah.
when I did it. So I'm glad I did that, because out of that came a lot of things that I knew about myself, but I didn't accept them very well. So
Yeah.
I accepted that. So
It's also interesting, Yasminder. It makes me think about that when we've done a lot of inspirational things and we have a lot of big words and we talk about being accepting and allowing and loving, but we've used them more on an inspirational level and not necessarily integrated it deep into the areas that
sure.
really needs to be shifted, and where the conversation around acceptance is slightly different and
Yeah.
much more, where it really needs the breakthrough, but it's a much more difficult one, right? Because who are you actually having a conversation with? Who is it really that needs to embrace the acceptance?
Well, I think the conversations with yourself is the first thing, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself. And sometimes I have not been. I know it's there. I think I deal with it well, but it was a very honest conversation with myself, and I had to work a lot of things, and it's been a very reflective time as well for me, which was very good. So good exercise. So it was good.
Wonderful.
Every week got me to a place I either wanted or I didn't want, So, but I had to go forward and just embrace whatever was there and deal with it. And I did, So I'm happy that I did that,
It's powerful, Yasminda, because it sounds to me like you really become clear, that you have a lot of clarity around what it is that is holding you back still. Because once we know that, we actually can move quite practically, can move towards resolving these things and take ourselves to the next level. So do you feel you have a process? Do you have a toolkit? Do you feel you've become equipped with something to now take the next steps?
I've taken away the technique. The problems are going to be there. These are all recycled experiences that we have all the time.
Exactly.
But it's the tool. So it's like when I've done the Vipassana meditation, I did it many years ago. And, it's not that your problems will disappear. It is what you take away from there, the technique on how to apply it in your daily life. And I think here as well, it was the technique. I will be facing those problems one way or another, and they will come. It's an invitation. The invitations will always be there for us, for me as well, but I just have to recognize the invitation and then work on it with the technique that I have learned in the bootcamp, and then take it from there.
Fantastic. And Yasminda, was there anything that surprised you in the bootcamp?
Not surprised. If I was surprised, it was surprised at myself.
Yeah. What surprised you?
So I kept saying that I think the fear was the biggest surprise, although I know it was there, but I didn't realize it was so huge. So that was a surprise. I think the acceptance thing for me as well is, we say a lot of things about accepting, but are we really accepting? And that really surprised me about this whole boot camp. I think the surprises were for me, not for anything else.
I hear you.
There were beautiful surprises as well. That I will say to you, and there were beautiful surprises as well.
Yes.
So yeah.
And did you feel safe and held in the space?
Totally. It was a space where you're stripping yourself. It's like coming and stepping out of your clothes and standing in front of people, and and everybody has issues about stripping themselves and coming and being naked and then revealing and showing the scars, so to say. But it was lovely. The group was very lovely. They could see the scars without the judgment. It was very, very safe, you know. But the other most beautiful thing that I felt was that I managed to touch my own scars and appreciate them, you know. And I think sometimes we run away from things like that. So that was very lovely. So totally safe place where I managed to touch my own scars, which was lovely.
Wonderful. No, completely. But also scary. And people might, when they listen to this video, like, whoa, what kind of boot camp is that? Is it important, though, that we touch our scars? And why is that important?
Totally, because out of the scars emerges the beauty of you, emerges the knowledge, the wisdom, the person that you are, you know. And I think for me, that was very, very important, you know. It's like, and I'll give you a woman's example. And I think for me, having had children, you know, the body changes, you have the marks, you have the stretches, you have everything. But then to show it, you know, let's say you're in a new relationship, that's you know, it's hard work and daunting in itself. You know, when it's the fear that puts you there. But when you can actually say, this is me, this is part of me. I brought two beautiful children in the world, and these are the scars to show it and appreciate it. But once we are comfortable with those scars of our journey, you know, the other person automatically accepts them. You know, when we hide them and then we are scared to show them, and we are, you know. And I think what I saw in the boot camp was everybody had the scars, but how beautiful everybody was today.
Yes, completely.
So it's important to just show the scars. It's not a bad place. It's not a bad thing. It's a lovely thing. I learned from the boot camp.
No, that's fantastic. And it's been just such richness that you added into the space. So your own story, your own scars, the way you met others in theirs. So would you recommend the bootcamp to others?
Yes, totally. Without a second thought, yes. Because, you know, everybody has struggles in life, you know, and it's important to recognize those challenges and not hide from them, to bring forth, to work at them, to know the techniques. It's expanding your knowledge and the tools that you need in life, because these are the very tools that we will need for the rest of our journey in life, you know. So these are the very important tools. So definitely. Why struggle when there is help and other So that's how I looked at it.
Yes. So thank you for that, Yasminder. And when you think about, you know, because you're saying that fear was one of the things that were crippling you, do you feel bolder and braver? And how are you going to use that moving forward in this year?
The fear is still there, but it's not at large.
Yes.
You know, I'm addressing it, and that's what I've not been doing. I always knew it was there. Yes, and I think the wheel is one of the things, because I've printed out a few of those, and you know, and so I will face the fear in other ways. But I can work around the wheel, and then, you know, look at things and recognize a lot of those old patterns as well, and they need to be knocked out, you know, and then from there. So I think, yes, it's a great tool, and it's been very helpful for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And do you have one last message for those who are watching this video who are curious about the bootcamp?
I would say, yes, definitely give it a go. Nothing to be scared of. You will just find beautiful parts of yourself. You will find your strengths. You will find others on that journey, and you will gain a lot of knowledge, and you will actually come out with a good tool to work with, you know. So I think it's very, very important. And I would say definitely go for this bootcamp. It's amazing.
Thank you, Yasminder. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marina.
Lots of love.
And to you.